This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. I had to bring this article to you today because after I saw this headline, I just couldn't stop laughing. I mean, we know not to take these tabloid magazines seriously, but I wanted to bring this article to you because not only is it entertaining, but also piques my interests on trying to understand who could possibly be behind this article. In my humble opinion, I don't think it's Meghan, and I'll get into that after we go through this article. So let's dive in, and then we'll talk about it. From the Globe magazine, Meghan's secret calls to Kate. First off, does anybody really believe that Meghan has access to Catherine right now? No. And unfortunately, since this is an American tabloid, it's not uncommon to see Catherine still being referred to as Kate here in the United States. And I'd like to add that not all of these articles are tied back to Meghan just because they call her Kate. There are instances where you know Meghan is behind it due to certain little words that are being used as well as how Meghan is being positioned. But in this case, I don't think that that's the case. As I go through this, I will replace Kate with Catherine just out of respect. So we begin. You gotta love this title. Meghan shoves olive branch at Princess Catherine. Miserable Duchess Meghan is backpedaling big time after 7 years of bitchy attacks on Britain's royal family. And now Prince Harry's worried wife is making secret phone calls to her sister-in-law, Princess Catherine, in a desperate bid to salvage her battered reputation and her spiraling hubby's mental health. Courtiers confide. Meghan's post-palace life has fallen short of her lofty expectations, an insider explains. Her and Harry's $20 million Spotify podcast deal went bust. Their Netflix Polo documentary was trashed by critics, and her fledgling lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, has stumbled out the gate. Meanwhile, Catherine, the beloved Princess of Wales, has seen the public embrace her even more as she bravely battled cancer in 2024 and shared the joyful news of her eventual remission. Sources snitch the California-born Duchess of Sussex has enviously watched from the sidelines in the U.S., realizing she and her dunce Duke made major mistakes by repeatedly trashing his influential kin. As Globe previously reported, after the Sussexes ditched palace duties in 2020 to chase Hollywood dollars, half-black Meghan suggested that some of her in-laws were racist for questioning the skin color of the couple's unborn son, while Harry called his father, King Charles, cold and unfeeling and accused his stepmother, Queen Camilla, of backstabbing him to polish her own star. But tipsters tattle that in the face of her recent failures, former Suits stunner Meghan now believes her success hinges on a stamp of approval from Buckingham Palace, and she's begging Catherine to broker peace through an intervention with the fractured family so that she can revamp her image and become a princess who is admired on both sides of the pond. However, insiders say that's not Meghan's only goal, as she sees how her mopey man is torn up about being far from his cancer-stricken dad during his final days, his emotional distance from estranged older brother, Prince William, and his longing for his old upper-crust life. According to moles, Meghan is convinced 43-year-old Catherine, wife of future King William, will come around to her cause as she's eager to repair the rift between the brothers. Catherine is heartsick over how William and Harry have been at odds these past few years. The world saw how close they were as children, especially after the death of their mother, Princess Diana, the insider shares. Meghan is hoping to leverage Catherine's generosity and good nature to get what she wants, an invitation back into the royal fold for her and Harry. But sources point out that might not be so easy, you think? As Globe also reported, sources claim crabby Camilla, 77, has vowed to keep the turncoat, Harry, from worming his way back into his father's good graces because she still steamed about the Sussexes' relentless attacks. Harry, 40, has attempted to visit his ailing father during visits home to the UK, but the king claimed to be too busy with engagements to spend time with his younger son. Other spies say Charles, 76, has been pushed by peeved family members to cut Harry out of his will so that the red-headed renegade can't get his mitts on the monarchy's mega millions after His Royal Highness bites the dust. And sources dish that even though William has yet to take the throne, he's already demonstrated his iron-fisted nature by banishing Camilla's sister, Annabel Elliot, from the royal payroll after 20 years of work, sending a chilling warning to rebellious relatives. Confidence claim William will never forgive Meghan for telling the world Catherine made her cry before her 2018 wedding to Harry, and remains livid about his brother's royal bashing tell-all spare, even though the Princess of Wales is willing to let bygones be bygones for the sake of the monarchy. William is a stickler for loyalty. As far as he's concerned, Harry and Meghan have shown their true colors, and he isn't interested in their crocodile tears, another source spills. But Catherine knows how to deal with her husband's fiery temper, and her father-in-law, the king, has a soft spot for her. Many believe Harry and Meghan have burned too many bridges, but if anyone can save them, it's Catherine, and the Duchess of Sussex knows it. And that's the end of the article. And as much as I want this to be true, to know that Meghan is groveling before Catherine, we know that that's simply not the case. There are a couple things that dictate this. First, Catherine will never give Meghan Markle another second of her precious time, ever again. We must never forget the amount of attacks that Meghan had unleashed onto Catherine, starting with seeding that rumor about William having an affair. Then we had Meghan bullying Charlotte. Let's not forget that Meghan cleverly had Omid Scobie put in his book that Catherine was the racist. And then on top of it all, the attacks from the Sussex squad. So no, I don't think Catherine is going to be taking any call from Meghan anytime soon. Doesn't matter if she's heartbroken over the brothers not getting along. If anything at all, Catherine, at the very least, would have an arm's distance to communicating with Prince Harry. But never again will Catherine ever talk to Meghan. Catherine doesn't need or want anything from this $5 fame whore. The other point that I'd like to make is Meghan's ego and narcissism prevents her from humbling herself to go back to the royal family with her tail between her legs. Meghan is way too afraid of Catherine to pick up the phone and call her. Even if Catherine is Meghan's last resort, I don't see her doing it. Meghan is that stubborn and stupid. After reading this article, it did feel very crass in the way they talked about King Charles and his cancer diagnosis and biting the dust. Like, to me, that feels very American. And the only people that I can think of that could be behind this would be the Markles. And that's because the Markles have had the tabloid magazines on speed dial from the very beginning. Let's not forget, within hours after it was announced that Meghan was dating Prince Harry, Samantha Markle was doing an interview with The Sun that kicked off all of this drama with Princess Pushy. And we've seen how crass both Thomas Markle Jr. as well as Samantha have been over the years in their tweets as well as the things that they have said. So yeah, that could very well be a strong possibility. And, I mean, we can't rule out that possibly the Globe just made the story up. That, too, also is a very good possibility. I did find this article amusing, and I did say at the beginning of this video that this article is strictly for entertainment, and I think that's how we need to see it. Nothing more, nothing less. So now let's shift gears to something a little more serious and talk about this series that Candace Owens has put out there about Brigitte Macron. I started to watch this series, and I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet. But what I want to say about this, I'm not going to talk about the series itself, aside from just saying that there are a lot of similarities with Meghan's story and Brigitte Macron's story. And I'm not saying that Meghan is a man. I'm saying that there are a lot of things that just don't add up with Meghan's story, just like Brigitte Macron's, and how complicit the media has been in going along with the facade and the sham. And one of the episodes, Candace Owens started talking about this AI tool that they were using. And I want to play it for you so you can hear what she had to say about it, because it does pertain to what I'm going to go into next.
Xavier Poussard used a technology. I mentioned it to you on last week's episode, or a couple of days ago on the episode, but I want to demonstrate that technology for you, because when he said it to me, my girl brain just sort of went, okay, I'm not into AI, I'm not into tech. But then when he explained to me that this technology known as Face Plus Plus is basically the World Economic Forum's has listed it amongst its 11 smartest companies. Okay. It is headquartered in Beijing, China. As I mentioned to you, it is what China uses as their software for facial recognition. And when he showed me how accurate it is, I was positively shocked. I genuinely shocked, amazed, and then terrified about the direction of the world. When you think about these globalists who I believe want to turn us into like sort of these technological slaves, and recognizing that this artificial intelligence is bang on accurate. And so, yes, it's valued at $1 billion from the WF website. It tells us that it was founded in 2011, and it is a leader in machinery, visual, artificial intelligence industry and face recognition systems. So I want to show you, like, just as he was showing me this technology, and I was kind of testing it to see if it could get something wrong, just how accurate it could be. Because we now live in an age of plastic surgery, right? Women can literally change their faces. And the fact that this technology is still able to process who that person is amazing to me. So here's an example, and this is also featured in his book. But I want to point out Kim Basinger there on the right, who has modified her face a lot, okay? It still knows, it is looking and it is saying, yeah, no, that's still Kim Basinger. And it comes back with a percentage and is telling you, essentially, you get into the 75% range, you get above 70%, and it is very high. Like, yes, we are certain that that is her. And it is her. It is accurately her. I'm also going to show you that it is able even to take a childhood photo. And even though that might make it lower or decrease, and you may not get into the 70 range, you may get into the high 60 range, it is still able to tell you that, yes, this is the correct person. So you're seeing here Shirley Temple on the bottom there, Hillary Clinton. I mean, her face really hasn't changed much from the time that she was a child, but 78% confidence. On the top there, of course, you've got Princess Diana, you've got the Queen. It's able to come back and to say to you, despite all of this time and age, that this is the same person, which is incredible, like I said. Okay, so just looking at this photo, on the left there is the wedding photo, obviously the groom. On the right there is his cousin. That's John Louis. So these are, I would have thought, the same person. So she looked at this photo and she's like, no, I actually think that the person in the photo is this guy. And I think that they're playing us. And that if I had just looked at these photos and trusted my own eyes, I would have totally co-signed to what Natasha Ray said. That looks to be the exact same person. But Xavier Poussard, so Natasha said that or wrote that, and she got sued for defamation. Xavier Poussard instead ran these two photos in his technology, and it told him no. It said it's not the same person. In Face Plus Plus, it came back 52% low. So he said, okay, I must be missing something. I'm going to rely on technology. It's telling me that these are two different people. And they look so much, these first cousins look a lot alike, but the technology picked it up. And of course, we then learned, as we covered yesterday, or 2 days ago rather, that it actually was a different person, that John Louis Ozier was a first cousin. He was not, in fact, the same person that was pictured there.
So this tool that Candace Owens was speaking about is called Face Plus Plus. And as I was watching and listening to her, it had me thinking. It had me thinking about photos that Meghan Markle has put out there that seemed quite questionable, but we couldn't really put our finger on it. Well, in any case, I decided to go ahead and check it out. If you were with me on this channel last year, perhaps you followed my series, The Biggest Fraud Alive, where I uncovered something startling. Many of Meghan's childhood photos, and even some of her home videos, bore the unmistakable marks of alteration. Through the lens of deepfake technology and masterful photoshopping, these relics of the past have been reshaped. For those who have witnessed it unfold, you may recall the reactions that followed. Sharp voices labeling me as unhinged, accusing me of veering off the rails. Yet, to me, that very outcry only underscored the truth bubbling to the surface, lending weight to the discoveries that I had made. Since then, more pieces of the puzzle have begun to fall into place. I think many can start to see that, especially now with the USAID exposure. What we saw was revealing the contours of a psychological operation, otherwise known as a psyops, woven into the fabric of what we have been told for the past 7 years. But still, for many, the manipulation remains elusive, shrouded in, I want to say, disbelief, or because I'm not mainstream media. For whatever reason, people are not talking about it more. I know it's a slow awakening, and I understand that time is needed because when you see it, you really can't unsee it. All I can do is press forward, laying out the evidence of this deception as I uncover it. Many of you have seen from time to time, I will bring in technological tools to support these claims that I've been making. And these tools not only validate what I've been saying, but also an anchor in my resolve. I do stand firm in this. What we've been fed is a tapestry of lies, point blank. And I'm willing to bet that many of you who have been on this journey with me will agree with me when I say that ever since Donald Trump had been elected into office, there has been an energy shift with all the respective characters involved. I'm sure many of you have started to notice it, particularly in the media, with some of these media outlets now pushing back and speaking out about Harry and Meghan. In addition, some of the characters that have been a part of this saga for the past 7 years now suddenly seem to be fading out. Take, for example, Doria. Like, where has she been? I think the last time the public saw her whereabouts or heard about her was back in April of 2024 at an event where she took a photo with Beyonce's mom. Other than that, I don't think she had any more appearances. And then now, the beginning of this year, Thomas Markle all of a sudden disappears and fades off into Southeast Asia with no sighting again. I mean, it's really interesting to watch. And now that USAID money has been cut off, it does feel like everybody has gone silent. And the only person that's remaining here is Meghan Markle, who is self-destructing in front of our eyes. Is it coincidental, or is it specifically tied to the scandal that has broken about USAID? I don't know, is yet to be seen, but I do want to bring forward now, looking at this tool that Candace Owens has brought forward, and show you what I have seen and found with these photos. The app that Candace Owens is using is called Face++ by a company called MegV. And in this software suite and services, they give you the ability to compare faces in photos. Anyone can try this out for free because it is a part of the demo suite. And this is what the demo prompt looks like. It's very self-intuitive and easy to use. You just upload for one square the photo that you want to compare against the other, which is the other square. And it does its magic. It generates the compare result on the right-hand side. And if you want to see the actual percentage, then you switch over to the other tab that shows you the JSON code, which does give the output of the percentage. Let's take a look at an example. So the first example that I have here is showing everyone that the tool is indeed working. So what I did is I took 2 current photos of Meghan Markle that look drastically different. One where Meghan looks, quite bizarre, and then the other one from Invictus. And as you can see, the tool generates a score of 88.3%, saying that the probability is very high that these 2 photos are of the same person. Okay? Fairly simple and straightforward. Another example, I did the same thing for Catherine, this time using a current photo of Catherine, but using a younger version of Catherine to see if it would generate a similar response. And so it did. As you can see, very high probability that it's the same person in both those photos at 88.02%. And for good measures, here's one more, again, of Meghan Markle that we know is Meghan Markle, and it's reading it correctly, that high probability it is Meghan. Okay, now let's take a look at Meghan present day and compare it with one of her childhood photos and see what happens. So here we are. Interesting that the percentage has dropped a bit, but it's still showing high probability that those two photos are indeed of Meghan Markle at 70.71%. Here is another one. So far, so good. It shows that high probability again. That is indeed Meghan. Now, before I get to showing you Archie, let's talk about Thomas Markle and the documentary that he did back in 2021 called My Story. So in that documentary, Thomas Sr. had shown quite a few photos of the Markle side, including Samantha, Tom Jr., as well as his ex-wife, Rosalind. Well, the only way to find out is if we check it. So let's start with Samantha. Starting with the baby photo of Samantha and Samantha in her teens. This is what the tool generated. And here we are. So far, so good. This baby picture compared to the photo of Samantha in her teens checks out to show that indeed there's a high probability that those two photos are of the same person. And if we continue and compare a picture of Samantha today to the picture of her in her teens, you can see it is her. We're going to go ahead and skip Rosalind's photo for now because I could not find an up-to-date photo of her without wearing glasses. And unfortunately, that will skew the results. So moving on, we're going to look now at Thomas Jr. Is anybody surprised seeing that the probability is low that the boy in the photo is Thomas Jr.? So looking at this, perhaps maybe we give Thomas Jr. the benefit of the doubt and say, let's use another photo and compare. Surely it might be the technology, right? Uh-oh. Let's try one more time. Well, color me shocked, folks. Once again, it shows that it's a low probability that those two photos are of the same person, which I think it's pretty safe to say that it's doubtful that that photo is really of Thomas Jr. Even though it does look somewhat similar to him, there's a high probability it's not. Moving on, let's now take a look at Thomas Markle Sr. I'm afraid that we have a similar situation here, testing multiple photos of Thomas Markle Sr. present day compared to this photo that he showed in the documentary of himself, is coming back stating that no, there's a low probability that the two photos are of the same person. Look, I know many of you don't want to hear it and don't want to think that we are being lied to, but here is one more photo, just for good measure. Now let's take a look at some of the Meghan photos that not only surprised me, but will also surprise you. I bet you were surprised by some of those photos. I know I was. But don't think that all of them have a low probability. Like I found this one. This shows to be high probability that it is indeed Meghan in it. And, I could say, yeah, sure, it does look like her. But we know Meghan has manipulated a lot of stuff. So, here we have this Chinese program that is being rated as one of the best by the World Economic Forum. I don't think there's a lot of error going on here. I do think that it is reading properly, and we know how we have been manipulated based off of other indicators that we have seen from these photos, as well as the inconsistencies with these stories. Put that all together, and something is not right. So now let's talk about Archie's photos. I'm sure you're going to be surprised when you see the results of comparing some of the photos that we know are definitely this child. So take this one, for example. I'm not going to lie, I was very surprised to see such a high score for these two photos because I literally thought the one with Harry really was Meghan pasting her baby face onto this child. But apparently It is Archie. Now let's take a look at little Betty. These results are definitely going to shock you. And there is little Betty. Raise your hand if you're shocked to see the probabilities being so high. I know I was shocked, but then again, I'm not really sure if this tool recognizes artificially generated photos. It could very well be an artificially generated photo that they take the image and they advance. That's something that I'm not too sure about. But yeah, this was a complete shock to me in seeing that all these photos were similar in their percentages, indicating that they are indeed of this one child. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.